Hello and happy Vlogmas. I'm going to do a video today where I'll share some things with you from YouTube on the screen because this is a big deal to me this time of year. It is eagle season. I'm sure you guys know that if you know me at all or have been at the channel very much at all. So I thought today I would just go down the list of the eagle cams that have live streams available on YouTube. We'll take a look at each of them and I'll tell you a little bit about the nests, what's happening now, what's expected, the dates, important dates for where those nests are geographically, and share exciting news because there is exciting news here and there as well. So I'm going to pull up another screen. Let's do this. All right, so I'm just going to go down the column here. You'll notice as I'm scrolling down my column here, I watch a lot of eagle nests. So here we go with the first nest. Let's see, I wanted to do this a different way. Yeah, I want to do it this way. First nest. This is the American Eagle Foundation. They provide the live stream cams for the Northeast Florida nest, which is the home of Gabrielle. She's called Gabby. And then her mate Samson went missing earlier this season. It's apparent at this point he's not coming back, and there's no way to know what happened with him. But this other suitors began coming around right away. In fact, there had been some altercations and some territory battles, and so it's very likely that the male eagles that have been coming around may be responsible for why Samson is not around anymore. But it looks pretty clear that Gabby has chosen a new mate. He is just called V3 for now, Visitor 3, so the letter V3. They have been seen mating on the nest. She's been really coy with him, and there have been some other matings and mating attempts with him, but there have also continued to be other males come into the nest and try to win her over. So I figure we'll take a peek at the nests. I don't know who this is laying in the nest right now. Last I checked, there were no eggs, but this is definitely someone at least testing out the nest bowl. Okay, so no eggs in the nest right now, but looks like maybe since we've seen some serious mating happening, and I would imagine that's Gabby there, the mom. So hopefully we'll get some eaglets at this nest. Lots of comings and goings and, strange happenings at all of the nests, but the Florida nests, a lot of times they get started earliest in the season, so that kicks off my addiction. And then there's just a whole line of nests that spread all the way up into Canada that I watch. But so this is the first nest, the Northeast Florida nest of Gabby and her new mate V3 in Northeast Florida. And now let's see what's next on my list. Next on my list is the Avon Lake Eagles in Avon Lake, Ohio. Nothing really happening there yet because it's just too early in the season. The colder it is, the later the seasons can start. Looks like somebody brought something to eat to the nest. Looks like that might be the remains of something that was eaten. And the mom and dad, Stars and Stripes, that's dad and mom, Stars and Stripes, have been seen off and on at the nest, but you can tell there's not a lot of soft bedding or anything yet in the center where they'll lay the eggs because it's just not really time to be serious about nesting and getting ready for eggs. So let me refer to my notes here. Give me 1 second. Oh, I wanted to show you. Yeah, there's a clip at this nest. They did some camera maintenance last month. All of the sites that offer us the live streams for the eagle nests do have to do some work to keep the cameras, functioning properly, and that's done before the serious nesting work begins. So I saw a clip, a video here. Here we go. I won't show you the whole thing, but I just thought it was kind of interesting. Again, all of the sites I watch, they do camera maintenance, usually in the summer after the eaglets fledge, before the next season starts. I watched this earlier and it was fine. Oh, hang on, let's go back here a little bit. Okay, here we go. So they use a bucket truck, and typically you got to have someone that's an arborist, you know, a good tree climber, plus has the technical knowledge to be able to take care of these cameras. You know, I'm sure they clean them and make sure the wiring is all intact. Sometimes they have to replace components or they add additional cameras. Some of the nests will have multiple camera angle views even on the same tree. Other sites will have like a farther away camera, maybe on another tree that's aimed to the tree where the nest is, and then the camera that looks down over the nest or looks, you know, from the side looks into the nest. So anyway, this was just interesting to me because it is something that's a part of what all of these live stream, you know, channels offer us. You can typically make donations to any of them through various means, and if that's something that you're interested in doing, I encourage you to find a way to do that. So if you find a favorite nest and you want to support their efforts in sharing the lives of the eagles and nature with us through the live streams, you can make a donation that helps them with maintenance and upkeep of the cameras. Next up, we have the Kisatchie National Forest. I think I did post on my community tab about this last week that this is the secondary nest. So I had been watching one of the nests at the Kisatchie National Forest for 2 or 3 years, and then learned that there was another eagle nest in that national forest. So at the nest of Alex and Andrea, let's pull up that nest. Andrea passed away. She had a very serious seizure that was seen on the live stream. She fell out of the nest. Her body was recovered on the 9th of December. I haven't heard yet what the necropsy results were. Maybe they had to send some stuff off for testing. They did lay 2 eggs in November, and this is Daddy, Alex, on the nest right now as we're watching. Let me make that bigger. And bless his heart, he doesn't know that they're not going to get eagles, and the reason they're not going to get eaglets is that it's too cold for the eggs to be uncovered for really any length of time. And so when there are 2 parents, because the male and female eagles share responsibility for incubating and raising the young, and so when one leaves the nest to go take a bath or hunt for some food or just stretch their wings, the other takes over and takes care of the incubation duties. Well, there have been some battles for territory, and she was very, very sick before she had the seizure that resulted in her falling from the nest and crossing over. And Dad wasn't at the nest at the time, and so those eggs went uncovered, and I think this was in the evening. And it's in the 30s there. This is in Louisiana, but y'all, it still gets cold here in the South this time of year. And those eggs went uncovered for far too long. So there's really not any hope that there will be eaglets from these eggs. But Daddy doesn't know that. All Daddy knows is there are eggs. My mate is gone, and I must sit on them. But he still has to get up from time to time to go and find something to eat. There are still battles for territory, so he has to leave the nest from time to time to, flush out other birds. There's been a female bird coming around off and on. She's buried the eggs in the nest a couple of times, and then Daddy comes back and scoops them back up and gets back on them to incubate. So, again, it's fascinating and it's terrifying and it's wonderful and it's sad all at the same time. And yet, look at him. So, great lessons, as I always say. He's just continuing on. He's not letting himself get caught up in any kind of grief or confusion about what happened. He just knows what his job is. He's doing his job. And I guess we'll just have to wait till next season, because there's just not time at this point for him to find another mate and lay some eggs, for the 23-24 season. So hopefully we will see him back at the nest with a new mate, maybe that female that's been coming around, you never know. But this just really touches my heart because this is a sweet little pair, and they've had successful hatches and fledges every year before now. The avian flu is still a very, very dangerous thing that the eagles are having to deal with right now. And the seizure that she had, when I watched that, it did look like seizures I've seen in some of the other nests in seasons past, where necropsies verified that it was avian flu that killed them, because that does have a neurologic component to it. It's really unpleasant to see, but this is nature, this is wildlife, and we're just observers. There's really nothing we can do except celebrate when the good things happen and get some practice in learning to let go when the not so good things happen. Okay, so that's the one nest in the Kisatchie National Forest. Let's go to the second nest. So this second nest is the one that I've been watching longer. This is Lewis and Anna's nest. Again, they've had successful egg laying and hatches. They only laid one egg this season. No way to know why. That egg was laid on the 9th of December, so it's expected to hatch between January 15th and January 18th. We'll see. So again, as long as incubation temperature, the required temperature is maintained, and predators don't get in the nest to break something, or but this nest has been going pretty well. And again, the eagles take turns sitting on the nest. This right now is the dad, I think, sitting on the nest. I think that's Daddy Lewis sitting on the nest. Are they not just beautiful creatures? Aside from all the amazing things we can learn from watching them, they're just beautiful to see. They're just beautiful to see. And it looks like the temperature there is it corresponds with what's going on here. It says, it's a little bit warmer here. So that says it's 54 degrees right now. They're in the Louisiana Kisatchie National Forest. It's 59 degrees here in Southlake, Texas. And we're probably, I don't know where the Kisatchie National Forest is. I would think we're probably a little farther north on the globe than they are. But anyway, so there's that nest. And let's go to my next nest on the list, which is the bald eagles of Centerport. So that's in New York. And so it's not time for anything really to be happening there. That was Richard calling me. I'm just going to send him a message. Oh, if I could type right. He usually calls on his way home to see if I need something. Need him to stop and get something. All right, so bald eagles of Centerport. Let's look at the live stream. Again, we're not going to see much happening, and this camera is from a distance. So they can zoom in. The nest, let's make this bigger. The nest is right here. I guess you can see my little cursor right there in the middle of that tree. And typically this mom lays 3 eggs and they get 3 fledges every year. So we won't really start seeing them. I haven't seen them at the nest when I've checked in on the nest. I'm sure they've stopped by a time or two. And with all of these nests, it's not unusual for there to be other eagles that stop by, and eagles are kind of opportunistic in that regard. They'll look to see if they can find a ready-made nest if they don't have a nest of their own. We saw a lot of that after Hurricane Ian, with eagles coming into the Southwest Florida territory. Really all the nests, lots of territory battles, because a lot of the eagles that had lost their nests because of the storm, there's a fly, were looking for ready-made homes. And so there were lots of battles over nests because of that. So we won't start seeing really any serious nesting activity here probably for another, I would think, 5 or 6 weeks, aside from just seeing them stop by every now and then, maybe drop off a stick. And the eaglets or the eggs will probably be laid like late January, maybe early February. The eggs usually hatch sometime in March at this nest. And let's go to my next nest, which is Denton Homes, Iowa. Go to the live stream here. So mom at this nest this year has a new mate. Her previous mate, the parents are just known as the Majestics, Mom and Dad Majestic. And the dad and all three of their little eaglets. So see down across the bottom of the screen here, you've got the dates that the eggs were laid and that the eggs were hatched. Oh, maybe it doesn't show when they were laid. When they were hatched, all three of the eaglets and the dad died of avian flu last season. So mom has a new mate this year. I have not seen, I think I might have seen mom in the nest one time this season, but when I check in, I haven't seen eagles. You know, for the most part, I haven't seen eagles. So we'll see what happens. We may or may not get eggs and eaglets this year. I don't know that I've read any reports of any mating being observed. It's still a little early for eggs because, again, these eggs typically are not laid until in February. And then they hatch March and April, as you can see those dates there. So there's still time, and that does mean there's time for mom and dad to form a stronger bond and maybe practice some mating with each other. But that was a sad sight to see last season. Let me tell you, to see all those babies and that dad. Again, they were having seizures, and then fell out of the nest. So okay, so that was the Denton Homes Iowa nest. Next on the list is Duke Farms. This is a favorite nest of mine, and I'm not sure why. It's a very I want to say like low-key nest. Things typically go well. Not that I enjoy the nests better if it doesn't go well, but it's just so predictable here. They do usually lay 2 eggs and fledge 2 eaglets. This is just mom and dad, or dad and mom here. Typically the eggs are laid toward the end of January. Again, this is in New Jersey, so it's going to be colder, and most of the eagles will, hold out a little bit for better weather before they take a chance on laying eggs. I'm looking at my notes here in case you're wondering why I'm not looking at you a little bit more. But again, eggs will be expected toward the end of January with hatches late in February, early March. It's interesting to me to see there is some soft nesting material here. Can you guys see that? So obviously they have been at the nest, but you'll just have to stay tuned for updates on that one. Okay, next on my list, this is a relatively new nest for me, the Dulles Greenway nest in Virginia. Let's go to their live stream. Mom lost her mate. I don't know what happened. I don't think I've read or heard what might have happened, but he disappeared earlier this season, and she's had multiple males courting her and trying to win her over. But I don't know that she has settled on anyone yet. I haven't seen that she has chosen a new mate. Eggs typically aren't laid until about mid-March here. So again, there's time. It looks like I might see some grasses in the material. And she's been at the nest. She and these other potential mates have been seen at the nest. So they're around, and there are other eagles, ready, willing, and able. But we'll have to see what happens, and we won't know. Mom's name is Rosa. Her previous partner's name was Martin. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens here. Okay, this next one is exciting to me, the Eagle Country nest, because they were offline, I want to say for a couple of seasons. The tree, the property, everything was just lost in a hurricane. I think it was, not Hurricane Ian. What was the hurricane the previous year? I think it's been 2 seasons now that we haven't had cameras at Eagle Country. This is a beautiful nest. Oh my goodness. Let's get to the live stream. I don't know which one is which. Oh, well, here's the multicam view, which I think is super neat. So again, you've got, that's probably Mama. That looks pretty big. So that's probably Abby. You've got multiple views here. So here's one right at the nest. Oops, see, they're zooming out for us. Then here's one that's like across the way, probably another tree that's showing us the same nest. Then you've just got your wide angle of the pasture there. I think there are cows at this property. In fact, it's a cattle. Yeah, it's a cattle ranch. And then I'm not sure what's happening on this lower. I don't know why I'm having trouble with that lower right there. But the eagles here are Abby and her partner Blaze. I don't know that there were eggs or eaglets last year, again, because there was not a nest for them, but they did rebuild their nest. And then the Eagle Country people had to just come up with the funds to get new cameras and get everything set up again. Again, you can contribute to what these people give us if you want to make contributions, monetary contributions. Let's see. All right, so all I can say is that eggs are expected anytime. When I looked at the nest earlier today, so there was a better shot down into the nest when I checked earlier today, and I didn't see any eggs there. But, you know, if we've got mama hanging around, they really are expected any day now. And Abby and Blaze have been in and out of the nest doing nestorations, so they're ready. They're looking ready. Next up on my list is the Environmental Change Initiative in Indiana. This is at Notre Dame in Indiana. Now, we won't expect eggs until late February here, and as you can see, there's still snow in the area. But the name of this nest is the ND-LEEF. So ND stands for Notre Dame, and the LEEF stands for Linked Experimental Ecosystem Facility. There were no eggs laid in this nest last year because the female disappeared at the end of the previous season. So I think the eaglets had fledged and then something happened to her and she wasn't seen again. But there has been a new female spending time with dad. They're just dad and mom at this nest. I think, no, is that right? I don't remember now what their names are. I'll have to look and see if I've got their names on file. Well, it doesn't matter now because now the mom is gone. But we'll just have to see then if we're going to get any eggs this season, since there will be a new female if we're going to have some mating. All right, next up is the ETSU, East Tennessee State University cameras. There are two nests, Johnson City nest of Boone and Jolene. No eggs there yet. There have been some comings and goings here. Boone's previous partner, Shima, disappeared in January of 2022. So again, nobody knows what happened to her, but there'd been some battles. So it's always possible that one of the, females, maybe the female that's there now, chased her off. And we'll expect eggs at this nest and the other ETSU nest mid to late January, with hatches in February or March. So that's one of the nests. Oh, I wanted to make it big just so y'all could see what it looks like. So that's the Johnson City nest, and then the Bluff City nest. I always have problems with the Bluff City camera. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that has problems with the Bluff City camera, but that one where you just saw a logo, that's all I ever see. A lot of these nests have live chats, so if you want to learn about the nests, meet some other eagle lovers, and kind of join the family, you can participate in the chats. So this is the, again, Bluff City nest at East Texas State University, home of Dad Eugene and his partner Francis. And again, as with the other nests, we don't expect eggs until, maybe late January, early February. So I won't see a whole lot of activity. I do see some grass, some soft material there though, and they have been seen a time or two at the nest. So they are around and getting prepared. Next up, we've got a batch of nests from the explore.org folks. They have a YouTube channel here, and there are lots of things besides eagle live streams that you can watch. So as I'm scrolling through to show you the nests that I keep up with, notice this. There's owls, condors, penguins, bats, more bats, osprey, more owls. Fraser Point is the first one we're going to come to. Now, right now, it's just on highlights. I think I may have mentioned to you guys that some of the cameras, when I did my annual list of eagle streams that I watch, I did a video on that like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And the live cams at explore.org, when they're not actually showing live what's happening at the nest now, they show these highlights from previous seasons. The only thing I wish is that they would have a date, or they would have something on it, because even their real time, when they get to where they're broadcasting the real time live streams, there's no date or time on it, and that's the one thing I wish we had. But again, look at this beautiful bird and the great positioning of this camera. So again, this is the Fraser Point nest, and the male at this nest is just known as A64, and his female companion is known as A46. I know at least the female was was hatched at a nest not far from this one. A lot of these Catalina Island, California nests, that's what this one is, Fraser Point. The eagles don't wander too far from home, and they go on and build nests in the same areas where they hatched and grew up. So this is the first one of those. The next explore.org nest we have is, let's see what other animals we have though too. Fruit feeder cam at Canopy Lodge, toucan cam, crane camera. Okay, the Decorah eagles. We have seen mom and dad off and on the nest every now and then. This is in Iowa. There's a hatchery. This is at the Decorah hatchery in Iowa. And I don't remember if it's this nest or the Decorah North nest, but one of them, the parents nested at another tree where the camera wasn't. I think last year, maybe they've done that a couple of different years. So we always just have to hope they're going to be back at the one. But they can move this camera around a little bit. So right now it's just showing you the distance there, the structures off in the distance. But when it gets time for nesting, then the camera obviously will be aimed down into the nest. And another explore.org cam. I have this on full screen, so I don't have my back button. That was Decorah. Here's falcons. Oh, sauces. This is one of my favorite nests, and like I said earlier, it's not that it's a favorite because it goes badly, but there's been so much tragedy at this nest. So this is Audacity. This is mom. Again, we're on highlights. We're just on highlights down here because there's not really a lot going on as far as watching the current eagles do their thing. But Jack is the dad. Audacity is the mom. And there's something in their environment. It seems really obvious to me that there's something in the environment here that weakens the shells of the eggs so much that they can't hatch, because they can't even stay intact long enough to be incubated. And there was one season where Audacity laid, I think, 8 eggs. She would lay a clutch, then they would break. A couple weeks later, she'd lay another clutch, they would break, and she just kept on and kept on and kept on. So I can only think of a couple of eaglets that have hatched at this nest like in the last 4 or 5 seasons at least, because the eggs keep breaking. I don't know of that happening so much at any other nest. And yet again, great lessons here, because they continue on. They don't get bogged down in disappointment or sorrow. They know what their job is. They do their job. And then when the season is over, because the females' bodies are only fertile for a certain period of time, and then they just go on and do whatever it is they do when it's not egg laying season, and they come back again the next season and start over. So I'm so hopeful for this nest, and I prepare myself, every year when I watch for it to not go well, because there's such a history of it not going well here. But they're a very bonded pair. They're very affectionate and friendly with each other. And this is a very interesting nest site. So if you watch this camera, they'll show you the views sometimes around the nest. And it's just an interesting, it's not your typical up in a big tree somewhere kind of a nest. And there've been some really wild, I think this is the nest I watched where a baby deer was brought in to feed the eaglets one year. I think it's this nest, but we'll see. We'll see what happens here. So those are the ones I watch at the Explore Live Nature Cams. Well, that's Explore Birds, Bats, Bees. Let me make sure I'm not missing any other eagle streams here. Oh, Two Harbors. Okay, Two Harbors. Also, California coast here. This is an interesting nest too, for sure. Now, this is live right now. Today, December 19th, it's 12:36 California time. And as you can see, this nest is built on a cliff overhanging the ocean. So we had an eaglet 2 seasons ago, I think, that did fall off of the nest. But on the back side of that nest, there's a little ridge, a little ledge. And that's where the baby was. And Dr. Sharp from the Institute for Wildlife Studies made a rescue mission out there to save that little baby. Fortunately, the baby was young enough. He wasn't moving around a whole lot. Otherwise, he would have obviously been in danger of falling into the water. And there's nothing that could have been done at that point, because it takes a while. This is a trek to get to this. They have to hike out there. And it's miles of hiking to get out there. There's no other way to access it. But he rescued the little baby. The baby went on to fledge, and everybody was happy and healthy. The parents at this nest, the dad is Chase and the mom is Cholin. And there's an interesting connection with this nest and another nest that I'm about to show you. Oh, wait, hang on. Let me make sure I'm not missing another nest here. I don't know why they have 2 separate pages. Here's some more live cams though. Flying fox, honeybees, spoonbills, alligator and spoonbills, mixed species flying fox cam, more honeybees, hummingbirds. There's a different view. Well, this is the alternate nest. I don't think this is the same nest. Is that right? Because they used to nest in a different place, and then they moved to that one that we looked at first. But this is the same pair of the nest we just looked at, Chase and Cholin. Okay. Oh, why do I keep doing that? I just want to be sure I'm not missing another live eagle nest here. And maybe you guys are having fun seeing what else you can see here. Horned owls, condors, ospreys, peregrine falcons, more owls, peregrine falcons, and some more ospreys. Okay, so also explore.org has the Explore Live Nature Cams channel. And on that channel, I watch the Decorah North Nest, which is also at that same hatchery, just another nest in Decorah, Iowa. Usually things go well there. Again, I don't know if it's this nest or that other Decorah nest where they nested in a different tree one year where there wasn't a camera. I think it was last year, but I just don't remember for sure which nest it was. It looks like we got some bird activity going on out there on the little pasture. All right, so that's one. Now we'll go to the nest where I told you there was an interesting connection, because at the Two Harbors nest, where it's Dad Chase and Mom Cholin, the nest where the baby fell over the ledge and Dr. Sharp had to rescue it before it fell into the ocean, they are connected to this nest because the mom at this nest, the dad's name is Akachita and the mom's name is Thunder. Thunder is the daughter of Chase and Cholin. I just think that's so awesome. I think that's so awesome. Now, if they were to ever come in contact with each other, there'd be a big fight. It doesn't matter if it's offspring. Once they're adults and on their own, they are not allowed around anybody else's nest. No, Gucci's not here. So I'm recording.
But how are you talking to me and recording? Ain't that going to be on whatever you're...
Yeah, people know you live here.
Okay.
Anyway, so this is another Catalina Islands, California nest, Thunder and Acachita. They typically lay 3 eggs, so we'll see if that's going to be the case again this year. And most of those successfully hatch. I have a short on the channel of one of their offspring. This has been 2 or 3 seasons ago. Dad brought in a fish. I mean, not a big fish, but compared to the eaglets, they were still eaglets. They had their dark feathers already, so they were, big enough that they were very mobile, moving around the nest, and bigger, not like little tiny newly hatched eaglets. And Dad brought a fish to the nest, and this baby took that fish right out of Daddy's claws and swallowed it whole, like within just a couple of seconds. Swallowed that whole thing, tail and all, swallowed that whole fish. And I just thought that was really interesting. All right, so now here comes my number 2 heart nest, FOBBV, Friends of Big Bear Valley. This is Jackie and Shadow in the San Bernardino National Forest in California. In my top 2 all-time favorite heart nest eagles. They are hilarious to watch. They are extremely dedicated and diligent and loyal, and lots of heartache at this nest too, y'all. And it's been weather related, really, because the higher elevation here just means really harsh conditions in the winter. It looks okay right now, but we've already had some snow this year. There's Big Bear Lake back there in the distance, and they did hatch an eaglet last year. Her name was Spirit. Super cute, super curious, just so much fun to watch. But they've lost a lot of eaglets over the years because of the weather, just how brutally cold it can get. And they've had a lot of eggs not hatch. Again, I think just related to how cold the weather is. If they get up off the eggs at all for any length of time, it can, stop incubation, and there's not a way to resume it if it really does stop. So lots of eggs lost. Jackie laid a second clutch. I think was Spirit the result of a second clutch last year? Well, she's laid second clutches before because they've lost their eggs. And ravens are really a nuisance here at this nest. I don't see them at this nest. The only place I've seen ravens be more of a nuisance and a danger at nests is at that West End nest. Oh, y'all, that was a tragedy. The 3 eggs ready to hatch, like the day they were going to hatch or the day before they were going to hatch. And Mom and Dad got up for a little while, and I think they just had a miscommunication. And usually when one gets up, one flies in and tends to the eggs in the nest. They were both off the nest, and the ravens got in and took those little eaglets right out of the eggs. Again, it's beautiful and tragic all at the same time, but 95% of it is the beautiful part, so that it's more than balanced. But I'll be excited for babies at this nest. I would love to see 2 eggs laid and 2 eaglets hatch and fledge, because it's just been a while. Again, Spirit had a good season last year, but I don't think there were any other eaglets that managed to hatch at all from this nest for like 3 years before Spirit finally hatched. And again, just the brutal cold conditions. I wish Jackie would wait later in the year, but that's not how nature works, and I don't get to pick. So we'll see what happens here. But again, this is my number 2 favorite nest, my heart nest here. And now we have Friends of the Redding Eagles. I don't think they had a live stream camera going last year. And I think I read something about, this doesn't look live. 12/19 at 4:21. So I don't know what's going on here. That's the same one, isn't it? So they may be having some glitches going on with their cameras, and it looks like it stopped at 4:21 this morning, California time. But this is the nest of Dad Guardian and Mom Liberty. She usually lays 3 eggs, and they get 3 eaglets that hatch and fledge. So we'll see if that happens again this year. But I don't think they were live last year. I think maybe some. Yeah, in fact, I think I read that the nest tree had rotted and fell down, and so they had to build another nest. And then we'll just briefly go through these Hancock Wildlife Foundation nests. These are in British Columbia, Canada. So it's going to be a good while before they're ready to lay any eggs. The farther north you go, it impacts daylight and it impacts temperatures. This nest was built for them. This is the Boundary Bay nest in British Columbia. And David Hancock's organization built this nest for the eagles. They lost their nest for some reason, and so they've got this one built for him. And they actually installed that little thing to give them a little bit of shade. But we'll see if we're going to get any eggs out of that. And one of the other Hancock Wildlife Foundation nests is the Delta 2E nest, which is the first Hancock Wildlife Foundation nest I came across probably 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. They also lost their nest sometime last season. The tree that it was in a tree, and the tree fell down. I don't think they laid any eggs or raised any young last year. I want to say I have seen Mom at the nest a couple of times. I don't know that I've seen Dad. So we'll see. One of the best parts about these British Columbia nests is that because they lay their eggs so much later than the, United States eagles do, it just means the season is extended. So where like the Florida eagles lay their eggs in November or December and their babies hatch like in January, and then you go up a little farther where eggs are being laid mid-January and they're hatching in March. So these eggs probably will not be laid until March or April. So, we'll have babies all year long that we can watch. Okay, so that's another one of the Hancock Wildlife Foundation nests. And then Harrison Mills. This is the Harrison Mills live stream in British Columbia. Again, right now we've got it on the widescreen view of the area, but when we get ready for nesting, then they'll aim the camera at the nest for us. The Surrey Reserve nest in British Columbia. I watched this one. This was the second one I found after that Delta nest. But the original Mom and Dad left or got chased away a couple of seasons ago, and there's been a young pair. No eggs were laid here last year. The young pair took over this nest. They're just known as the Surrey male and the Surrey female. It looks like maybe they've been bringing some grasses here. And I have seen an eagle in this nest a time or two when I've checked on it, but I don't know if it's the pair that lives there or just somebody passing by. That's another one you can watch from David Hancock and the Hancock Wildlife Foundation. And then the White Rock Bluff. This was the third Hancock Wildlife Foundation nest I found after that Delta nest. This is in someone's backyard. But again, we won't be looking for eggs to be laid even until, mid-March at the earliest. So we're not going to see a whole lot of nest activity yet. Oh, but look how they can turn the camera. Thank you for that demonstration, Cam Ops person. So now you see what I was, I ate it. Right. Now we will move to the Institute for Wildlife Studies. So I mentioned this earlier when I talked about Dr. Sharp rescuing that eaglet that fell over the edge of the nest at Two Harbors. But there are some cameras that are managed by the Institute for Wildlife Studies. This is the Bald Canyon nest. Oops. This is a newer nest for me, and I don't know that this nest was even discovered until maybe 2 seasons ago. Periodically they get out and they're hiking the area and making sure that, everything is safe, and because they do from time to time find new birds. And they found this nest at Bald Canyon. I've got some info somewhere here. The parents are just known as the adult male and the adult female. They did raise offspring. They did have babies last season, so no reason to expect they're not going to do that again. But this is, again, one of the California nests, and those tend to lay their eggs a little bit later in the season. Next up, this one's kind of exciting because this is about, 60 miles, maybe a little less than 60 miles from RichKat Ranch. This is the John Bunker Sands Wetland Center in Seagoville, Texas. And last season, the mom and dad did not nest where the camera has always been. But hallelujah, they're back this season, and the first egg of the season was just laid yesterday afternoon, around this time at 2:30 p.m. yesterday afternoon. So this is, that looks like, that's probably mom on the nest. I have to see them together. The females are bigger enough than the males that's usually the easiest way to tell them apart. But these two, the camera doesn't get real close on them very often. So she's calling for a break. Let's listen to her for a second. I wanted y'all to hear her calling because from time to time, if the eagles need to get up, they want to take a bath or they're hungry or whatever, they just need to get up, they will call. So whoever that was calling, and if we're lucky, then what usually happens is that within a minute or two, then you'll see the other parent flying in to take over so that other one can take a break. But first egg laid yesterday. Eagles typically lay their eggs 3 days apart. So I'm going to be expecting an egg before the end of the week for egg number 2. They usually only lay 2 eggs here. I've only seen, since I started watching it, have only seen 1 eaglet hatch. But they've lost some eaglets in the last few seasons. So here comes another bird. Hear him calling? Or maybe that's still whoever was on the nest and they haven't actually left. Maybe they're just a little out of view, but they're still calling to be sure that the other parent is going to come and take over for them. Anyway, y'all may not think this is exciting, but I just think it's so beautiful to watch how amazing these birds are. All right, next up on the list is the Little Miami Conservancy in Miami, Ohio. This is Dad Baker and Mom Betty. Usually they lay their eggs around mid-February, and the eggs will hatch, late March, around late March. So not a lot going on yet. It's still early in the season for this nest. And then next up we have the Metro Aviation Eagles in Louisiana. This is in the Shreveport, Louisiana area. I have not seen the parents around, so I don't know. And it's just Dad and Mom. I gotta see what this baby's chewing on. Okay, so I don't know what's happening here. We should have eggs already. I know that much. So I don't know if the parents are not around. I'm not sure what might be going on with them. I think I may have mentioned in another video or in a live stream sometime, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. This used to be my 3rd favorite nest. There have been swap outs of moms and dads. And then last year there was I think both of these things happened the same year. If not, over the course of 2 years, the eaglets had a battle, and one eaglet pushed the sibling out of the nest, and that little sibling died. And then last year, again, it could have been the same season, and then as the season went on, the weight of snow on the nest was so heavy that it caused the tree and the nest to fall down. Or for sure the nest fell out of the tree, and there was an eaglet on it, and the eaglet didn't make it. So I don't know who the dad is now, because the original dad's been gone for probably 4 seasons. And then the dad that we had for however many seasons after that has been gone. I think it's the same mom. Now, it's not the same mom as the very first season I started watching, but she's been the mom now for most of the seasons that I've watched. But now they don't even have the camera aimed at the nest anymore. I don't know. I feel like something I read gave me the impression they just decided that it had just been too tragic, that there have been too many tragedies at the nest. There have been other seasons where Mom used to consistently lay 3 eggs, and there was always like a runt of the litter. Okay, so the 3rd eaglet I know one year I watched, he didn't make it, and it was so bizarre to see the difference in the sizes of eaglet 1 and eaglet 2 compared to eaglet 3. But in nature, you know, in the winter, food is a little scarcer, and so having a big clutch, having a big batch of babies often means they're not going to all make it, and the parents will naturally feed the older, stronger, bigger ones before they'll feed the little ones. So you'd think, you know, in a human world, you would think, oh, I'd want to feed the starving one before I would worry about the ones that look like they've got enough. But that's not how it works in the eagle world, and I'm sure that's true with other animals as well. And so it was just really unpleasant to have to watch that little baby starving in the nest that whole season. And it's just so cold, and as the bigger eagles got bigger and stronger, then they could make their way up under the mama, you know, to stay warm, and the little baby couldn't. He just didn't stand a chance. So I think something gives me the impression they've just decided, okay, there's other things to see in this area. We're not going to focus on the nest anymore, because they've had just a string of really sad, unfortunate things. And the bad part about that is that a lot of people can't grasp that it's nature. This is just how it is. There's nothing we can do about it. It is not any person's responsibility to go and, you know, take these babies out of the nest because they're starving or because they're freezing, or that's not the purpose of these cameras. And there are laws against that kind of thing. And I think that the people that run the cameras were getting a lot of hate mail, a lot of hate messages from people that felt like they should have done something and you shouldn't let that happen, and, you know, whatever else. And so I think they just have decided, okay, we're just not going to set ourselves up for that, because obviously not enough people realize we're not showing you the cameras so that you can beat us up over not being able to control nature. So let me get off that soapbox for a minute. Okay, next up we got the NestCams. These are Pittsburgh cameras. There are only 2 eagle nests that I watched, but again, lots of other wildlife, elks, a migration thermal camera. That sounds neat. There's some bats, but U.S. Steel. This is Dad Irvin and Mom Claire. Oh, let's look at the other one. Now, again, it's early in the season, and they're up in Pennsylvania, so you know, it's kind of cold there. That's probably Dad, because he looks sort of small. I know he's kind of at a distance, but I would expect Mom to look bigger enough for me to be able to tell. But it's kind of a neat view. This is in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. There's the nest over there, see? And I don't know a lot about this pair. This will be the first year that I've watched this pair. I think I learned about this nest last year, but it was already kind of late in the season, so I wasn't able to follow it and kind of learn, you know, how they operate and how many babies they have, stuff like that. So that's Urban and Claire. And then also at the NestCams, we have the Pittsburgh Hayes bald eagle nest. This is one of the first nests I started watching. This is just Mom and Dad. I want to say that either Mom or Dad is a new mom or dad since I first started watching. Often this mom lays 3 eggs, and they have 3 eaglets that hatch and fledge. It can be brutal up here too, y'all. Let me tell you, that nest will sometimes be covered in, you know, a couple of feet of snow. But it has not, you know, caused problems for these birds. So now only a couple left to share with you. Oh, here comes my heart nest. Southwest Florida Eagle Cam. So if you're new here, M15 and Harriet and M15 were the eagles at this nest from the time I started watching. Now, the first year that I started watching this nest was the first year that M15 had been Harriet's mate. She had a longtime partner named Ozzy who passed away. There's a real involved story there that he got hurt. He was in rehab. He came back. He was with her for a little while. Then there was a battle. Then he got hurt again, and then he passed away. And it's I think a given that M15 is probably responsible for the battle that resulted in Ozzy's injuries. But he and Harriet have just been the, you know, most amazing couple, amazing teachers. She was older than he was. significantly. And so he was brand new at eagling when they met, and definitely brand new at fatherhood. And she taught him so much. So when she went missing on the 2nd of February this year, 2023, after they'd laid their eggs, the eggs had hatched. So the eaglets were probably, a couple of weeks old, maybe 3 or 4 weeks old. I don't remember when they hatched now. Yeah, because it was in February. So they were probably about 4 weeks old. And I can only say that she just taught him. He became such an amazing father that he raised those 2 little eaglets on his own. And that was, again, he was fighting. There were so many territory battles last year because Hurricane Ian had wiped out so many nests. And even in February, there were still eagles looking to take over a nest instead of having to find a place to build a new nest. So lots of battles and lots of females in and out of the nest, and some nail biting viewing, just worried that one of these females was going to come in and hurt the babies or kill the babies. But everything turned out so beautifully. And one of the female eaglets that had been coming around toward the end of the season, before the eggs even left, or before the babies left the nest, I think is the one now that has become his mate. So they were seen back at the nest again right at the beginning of the season, and they both got busy working on nestorations, and it seemed pretty clear they were a pair, and they were going to, make this their home. So lo and behold, they did some mating. They laid their first egg on November 24th. The second egg was laid on November 27th. Again, eagles usually lay their eggs about 3 days apart. And that puts our hatch date range between December 31st and January 4th. The first season I ever watched the nest, that eaglet hatched on December 31st. So I'm just excited to see this. We didn't even know if M15 would come back to this nest or if another pair was going to take it over. Usually it's the female that determines where the nesting site will be, and the female is the one that picks the partner. And so I just think, in spite of being heartbroken over losing Harriet, it's turned out beautifully, and it's just a new era for the Southwest Florida Eagle cams. Next up is Super Beaks. So Super Beaks, I think I had shared with you guys that they were the first to lay their eggs. Last season, they were the first to have eaglets. Oh, I want live stream. I don't want that one. And they were, on track to do that same thing again this year. They laid 2 eggs. Something happened to one of the eggs. I missed what happened to it, but it got damaged or it fell out of the nest or something. And then the second egg, which, if it was going to hatch, it would have hatched like 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago. It wasn't viable. It was determined that it was not viable. It may not have been fertilized. Maybe it got too cold or something at some point and incubation stopped. So no eaglets are going to come out of that clutch. This is the nest of Pepe. Pepe is the dad and Milady is the mom. They are in Central Florida. So again, that's why they lay their eggs a little earlier, because it's warmer there. The climate, the environment has a lot to do with when the egg laying starts. But they have been seen already tidying up the nest and bringing in more grass and stuff. So we're hoping it means we're going to get a second clutch, and there's still time for that. When the season that Harriet and M15 laid a second clutch, they lost their baby E14 to rat poison. Okay, don't use rodenticides, folks. I've said it before. I'll keep saying it. Find alternatives if you've got a rodent problem, because when you put that poison out, it does not discriminate. Anything that comes in contact with it has just as much a chance of dying as the thing you're trying to take care of. And sometimes that means your family pet. Sometimes that means a wild creature that depends on those rodents for survival. So they had fed the baby a rat that had rat poison in it. And the way rat poison works is it causes internal bleeding. You bleed to death inside. And so the little baby had a broken pin feather, which is usually not a big deal, but then he bled to death. And again, we had to watch that on the cameras. You could see what was happening, but nothing could be done because it's wildlife and there's just a very limited list of reasons why it's okay for anyone to go in and take an eaglet or an eagle out of the nest. And it requires all kind of permits and licenses, and you got to work with U.S. Fish and Wildlife or whatever other wildlife things. It's a very involved bureaucratic mess. They did go up and retrieve his body after he passed away, and that's how we know it was the rodenticide that killed him. So there's my PSA about rodenticides and wildlife. So we're going to be watching for a second clutch from this nest. I am confident that's what's going to happen. I've seen that happen so much, lately, that I don't think it's nearly as rare as I had always believed it was. Next up, we've got the Wildlife Rescue of Dade County. This is in the Miami, Florida area. This is the nest of, where's the overhead one? This is the nest of Ron and Rose. So for many years, it was the nest of Ron and Rita. Rita was out hunting for food or something a couple seasons ago, and she got hit by a car. She had a wing that was so damaged that it had to be amputated, not the whole wing, but she can never fly again. So she could not be released back to come to her nest and return to her partner. So she's living in a sanctuary. She's doing well. She did well for the surgery. But Ron found a new mate. She was a very young eagle. So when he met her, she still had some brown feathers on her head, which meant she wasn't quite 5 years old. No one even knew if they would have eggs, because it was believed that until a female eagle is at least 5 years old, she doesn't lay eggs. They can't lay eggs. Well, she was not quite 5. You could just tell by her coloring. She laid eggs. So I think last season was their first season together. They laid 2 eggs, and they've just become a very bonded pair. And they've got, let's see, 2 eggs laid on 12/6/23 and 12/10/23. So that puts their hatch date ranges between 1/15 and 1/19 of 2024. So we'll be watching here. This has been a sweet couple to watch. And Ron has had to teach Rose just like Harriet had to teach M15. And now Window to Wildlife. So much heartache at this nest in the past. Related to rodenticides. Oh, I'm just singing another verse of that song. Had to watch those babies passing away in the nest. So here's the first eaglet, which hatched on Sunday, the day before yesterday, about 6:14 in the morning. He looks healthy. He looks happy. He's eating well. He's pooping. Everything looks good. The other egg, maybe we can get a shot of it. If it's not hatched right now as I'm recording, it should be hatched by the time you see this video, because this video will be up about 5 o'clock this evening. But that egg was hatching as of when I checked this morning. Looks like we've got a snowy egret or something in the nest over here that was brought to eat. And I did capture a clip of the baby being fed earlier today. So I'll get that posted. In fact, I may just insert that into this video so y'all can see how precious these baby eagles are. Oh my goodness. To know they grow up into these fierce looking, super strong, amazing creatures, but they just start out just little fluff balls, little helpless fluff balls. It's just a miracle. So it looks again like mom or dad, whoever this is right now, is tearing off little pieces of food to feed the baby, but the baby's on the other side of mom. So I'll insert that clip for you to watch this baby being fed this morning here. last up on my list, although there's another one I need to look for. I wonder why I don't have it on my list anymore, is the XL Energy Fort St. Vrain, Colorado nest of Pa and Ma FSV. And again, there have been some crazy things happen. I was watching the live stream one year when the eaglets were probably about 8 weeks old, 7 or 8 weeks old. Again, they had some dark feathers already, and a raccoon climbed up into this nest and pulled one of those babies off of the nest and killed it. So be prepared. If you don't remember anything else I said, just know that you may see some things that aren't wonderful all the time. But again, it's early in the season for anything to be happening at this nest. We'll probably get eggs mid-February with hatches toward the end of March. It does get very cold here, lots of snow, but they usually do successfully hatch eggs and fledge eaglets from the nest. So I want to look for the Port Tobacco, Maryland. And I wonder why it wasn't still in my, this is Hope and Chandler, or Chandler and Hope, although now I don't know if maybe there's a different parent there. Things usually go pretty well at this nest, if I remember right. But again, it's been off my list, so I may have missed something. 40 degrees in Maryland right now. Feels like 37. There's just a neat angle, neat camera angle on this nest, so I will add it to my list of eagle nests, and I'll include the links again for all of the channels that have the live streams, the channels that I covered in this video. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, this is a big deal to me because obviously it's Christmas time, it's holiday season, but it's also eagle season, and this is when the babies start arriving and a lot of the nests start laying their eggs. And that's just so exciting for me. I love nature. I just love nature. I love wildlife. I love animals. Anything to do with those things really speaks to my heart. So the good, the bad, and the ugly, there are lessons to be learned from all of it. And it's a nice way to get perspective on your own life, your own situation, your own blessings when you see what some of these creatures have to contend with and how beautifully they do contend with it. So again, I hope you enjoyed it. It's part of the holidays for me, so I'm making it part of the holidays for y'all. Happy Vlogmas, Merry Christmas, happy holidays. Be safe, be happy, be well, be blessed. I guess I could stop sharing my screen. Remember always that I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for joining me for this edition of Vlogmas today. I'm still deciding what I'm going to do for tomorrow, but good holiday so far. It's kind of chilly here today. Oh, I like to tell you all that. Oh, I did tell you that earlier. It was 59 degrees, so we'll just stick with that. It's not raining at the moment. We're supposed to get rain again this weekend. We had rain at the end of last week that made everything a muddy mess here for the weekend, but I guess it's better to have it on the weekends than during the week when everybody's driving back and forth to work. So I know you're probably going to have some little ones home for their Christmas break with you if they're not already out of school. So I hope you moms out there are faring well, having lots of people underfoot that maybe you at least get a break from while they're in school during school hours when it's not Christmas break. I'll see you in my next video. Again, thanks for being here. Love to all from RichKat Ranch. And that's it for now. Bye, friends.